watch it later. Yeah, we'll be live in 2-3 minutes.
Perfect, no problem. I actually have a trick I wanted to show maybe for people who don't know. While we were waiting, I just want to show this little one, and then it's gonna start listening to what I'm saying and hopefully translating correctly in Bulgarian. And I found out about this option when I was supposed to have a presentation. I was having a presentation for South Korea. And there was a client from South Korea. They invited me to speak, and they're like, "Listen, our people like can speak English, but can you please have some subtitles so it's easier to understand and so on." And for weeks, I was like, "Man, which AI tool?" Because I'm like the AI guy, right? So I'm like, "Which AI tool can I use?" I Google. I couldn't find anything, and then in the end, I realized it's PowerPoint. You have it in PowerPoint. I can show you quickly here. So under slideshow, let me just move this and subtitle settings. Now I always use them when I present. But here you can just spoken language. You can choose any of these and you can decide where they are on top and bottom or below slide overlaid or not. And then when you present, they're going to be automatically turned on.
Nice.
And the only issue is that when we say rabbit, it's probably going to translate it as rabbit or Zayak. Yeah, Zayak. So that's like it doesn't know these specific words, but otherwise it's pretty nice.
Still good enough if it's some weird foreign language that you don't know. It's good enough to grab the general idea from the presenter. So very handy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start by sharing my screen right now just to give the audience a little bit uh, uh, more information about the Sofia Revit User Group and just to uh, know better uh, why we are here. Hopefully, uh, most of you are familiar, but we established the Sofia Revit User Group back in 2018. With our main goal is to bring together people who are interested in Revit, BIM, and in the digital part of the AEC sector, pretty much trying to uh, build a strong community here. And also, one of the main hub is our website, where you could find all the information about the group, information about past events. Also, if you're interested in what we've discussed previously, you could go to YouTube and find the Software Revit User Group channel, where under playlists you could browse through the live meetings or the web talks. Now we're here to do a web talk, and this was a new format that we try to introduce to our community here with the aim to bring international experience and knowledge to our local group, because the live meetings are great. They're bringing people together. You could get to know each other, but still we are somehow encapsulated in our own problems and our own environment here, and it is very nice to see what the people outside our bubble are doing and what are the technologies and everything that is outside our day-to-day issues and tasks. And we are very happy that some of the very big names, I think, in AEC sector are willing to join and present. So, for example, we've got Howard here, also uh, uh, some other very interesting people presenting. So you could check the recordings from the previous session. And now I think it's time to give the word to today's presenter, who will introduce himself. As he already said, the AI guy, Stefan. So the word is yours.
Thank you so much, Petar. And before I share anything about myself, I just want to tell you thank you so much for the invitation, because I remember it was, yeah, now maybe like 6, 7, 8 years ago, when I was just like a young aspiring BIM professional. I was looking at your posts, I was looking at what you were doing, and I was learning a lot from it. So yeah, I remember back then. So I was more than happy to like accept this invitation to speak today, and I hope that it's going to be helpful for people. So yes. Okay, so let me just move on. Please just confirm if you can see my screen and the subtitles and everything's fine.
Yeah, perfect. All good.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So, as Petar said, my name is Stjepan. I mean, probably Bulgarian people don't have that big of an issue pronouncing it, but if you do, Stefan, any form of Stefan is completely fine. I'm Croatian, but like you can say, still live in Denmark. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that today. But without further ado, because I know you came here for knowledge, so I'm just going to get straight into it. What you can expect from today is that we're going to go, let's say, around the AEC industry, so architecture, engineering, and construction. I'm going to talk about like how to start using AI for free. But actually, I'm going to talk about a lot of things. So I really hope you're going to learn so much today. And because AI is a big world, man, like, and the journey I've been on for the last, let's say, 2 years, really focusing down on this, and especially within the last 6, 7 months with my own company, has been incredible. Like both in terms of the reach I got speaking online, and in terms of like people from all around the world joining my courses and whatnot, but also in terms of like how far this technology can take the AEC. So I hope you're going to learn a lot. I'm going to start like sharing a bit of an intro on what I do, because I guess most of the people watching this have no idea, or maybe know a little bit about my work. So I'm going to make sure that everybody has that, let's say, baseline. Then I'm going to talk about the change. I'm going to mention, like, I think I counted them today. Like it's 22 really amazing apps that around the AEC. And then the outro, I'm going to talk a little bit more about my courses for those who want to start building AI skills, let's say. And I'm going to share 24 of my personal AI apps that I also use. So this is going to be the last slide. So I really hope you're going to stick around and you're going to get this 24 apps that you can use immediately. You can just, go online and use them immediately to improve your productivity and how fast you work and what you can do and so on. So if that sounds good, I'm just going to get started. Usually my presentations are not only PowerPoint. I'm also going to be showing some Notion. And in my Brave browser, I'm probably going to show a demo if we have time for that. I actually think that the presentation is, there's a lot to cover. So if I'm not going to have time, we can maybe organize another one. We're going to see at some point. So that's just to cover what you can expect. And as I said, my name is Stjepan. I came to Denmark in 2015 to study and work. And for the first 3 years, I worked at Sweco, which is Europe's largest engineering company. I was there as a BIM coordinator. I was doing structures and MEP and electrical modeling in Revit. It was really fun times. I wouldn't necessarily go back there, because I went once through it, but it was a really, really nice time. But at some point I wanted to try something different, and then I joined BIG. For those who are architects, you probably know BIG, but if you don't know BIG, it's Bjarke Ingels Group. It's one of the, let's say, I usually say it's like the Real Madrid of architecture, like one of the most famous companies that people know about. I was there as a project BIM lead for around 2 years. And then since this February, I have my own company. And hence I became a walking advertisement, as you can see, called AI in AEC. And what I do is currently I still mainly focus on educating people, on educating architects, engineers, designers, construction professionals on how to use AI, how to develop it, how to implement it, how to deploy it, how to make an AI strategy. There's a bunch what I do, but I'm going to cover that near the end of the presentation. So if that sounds good, I'm just going to continue. I hope that's okay. All right. So first, what I want to cover is the why of AI. Why do we even need it in our industry? And I love sharing this slide, even though it's let's say, a somewhat pessimistic slide. Because if you've been in the industry for like a few years, you've probably seen this, that we are the second largest industry in the world, but we are by far the biggest polluter. Like 39% of global carbon emissions are caused by our industry. So architecture, engineering, and construction, meaning that we produce so many, let's say, CO2 emitting stuff. I think concrete alone is 8 or 9%. And then that's part of it. Okay, I'm going to come to why AI, but like this is, let's say, a bad image of our industry. That's on one hand. Okay, we have this on one hand. What we have on the other hand is that by 2060, we are like there's so much demand for buildings that we need to build a New York-sized city every 34 days in order to house the global population. Now, I don't know how specifically it is in Sofia, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's much different from any, let's say, Western or developed, let's say, big city. Because the thing of the matter is that if you have a normal jobs, you're in a couple, you have like two normal jobs, more and more people can't afford, like they don't have affordable housing in the center of the city. They need to move further and further away. So what we're seeing today, it's like people are moving further and further away, like 30, 40, 50, 60 kilometers away from the city, which then just increases the CO2 emissions because you need to drive, you need to spend more money to get, it's not the life we hoped for when we were like young. And there's just, and the whole thing is that, we are complaining about prices and about wages not, let's say, rising as fast. But the problem is that it's just a big demand and low supply. So we have that responsibility as architects and engineers to build more. So when you think about it, like on one hand, as I said, we are polluting so much, and on the other hand, we need to build so much. Like, how do you combine this? How do you make this, work together? And there's a bunch of research. I also research a lot myself. This is what I do, let's say, every day. And there are basically two ways we can meet this demand for buildings. So one way is to 10x the AEC workforce. So instead of us being, I think I checked like 13, 14, we need to be 130 on this meeting. We need to be like 10x more people, joining architecture, being architects, doing stuff, or we need to 10x the production speed, meaning that we need to just produce stuff a lot faster. So instead of buildings taking 2, 3, 5 years, they need to take a few months. And then when you think about this logically, these two options, what is more likely? I mean, the left option, meaning the AC, 10x the AC workforce, we are not having as many kids anymore. Not many people are studying architecture because they know, or engineering or construction, because they know like the hours are long, the salaries are not as high. It's not like, let's say, the best picture out there. But on the other hand, you have AI. And this is why I believe that AI is a need to have for our industry and not only a nice to have. So this is a graph that shows, and please tell me if you can see my mouse as well across the screen. Yeah, perfect. So this is a graph that shows AI's performance compared to average human performance. Okay, so in handwriting recognition, speech recognition, image recognition, reading comprehension, whatever it might be, AI is already better than we are, than an average human is at many of these tasks. And as you can see, this only happened in the last few years. This is incredible. People think, it's just, it's just another technological update. No, AI is a thing that changes everything. And you can see here that, okay, maybe some of the tasks aren't there yet, but look at the graph. It's exponentially rising. So it's just a matter of months or weeks before this overtakes human capabilities. And of course, when you think about these tasks, there's no task like communication, emotional intelligence, they're not such tasks. So what I'm trying to say here, and the picture I'm trying to paint, is that AI is really good for many things, but not for everything. But also we just need to be aware that it's really, really good. It's not the AI that we think, write me a poem in Shakespeare style, who needs that? So this is, again, why I believe that AI is that technology that we need in the AEC industry. Because I personally don't see another way of us fixing the global AEC problems that I just mentioned a bit earlier. So, and I know, this is Sofia Revit User Group. I also worked and studied in Revit for years, you can say. But I'm not going to say anything against Revit. Pretty much, but I'm going to say something really interesting because a lot of people thought that BIM is the answer to all these solutions. So this is a slide I also like sharing, where you can see the BIM of today. We have three, let's say, big. I mean, there's more, of course, tools or apps, but Revit is by far the biggest one. I think 85% of the market has or uses Revit. And what I outlined down here, and that's why I'm sharing it in one slide. I mean, you can take a photo of or a screenshot of this and try testing these out, because these are some of my favorite add-ins when I was a BIM lead and what I was using. And some of them have AI capabilities. So some of them are going to help you speed up processes, make more, faster, cheaper, whatever. But the thing is, what we don't actually even realize about these, let's say, apps, is that they're very old. I mean, look at this. We're using ArchiCAD from 1984. Like, if you took a phone from 1984, which didn't even, like, would you be like, how can I even communicate? And we're using that app today to design, build. I mean, I'm like, sorry, but like, this doesn't make any sense, guys. I mean, listen, I'm not here, again, I'm not talking about any of these or against any of these. They have had updates, but these are patches and repatches. And I'm just trying to have people understand that in the software world, there's actually, I think that the term old software, you already become after 5 years. So if you have an app for 5 years, you're already old, because the technology has moved on so quickly and so far that it's very hard to update it and make new changes. So what I usually say when I show this slide is that we're using last century's technology to solve this century's problems. And to me, it just doesn't make any sense. So one of the reasons why I started the company and why people, let's say, follow me and like to learn from me is because I come with this perspective. And let me show you what this next. So as I said, Revit, I still think it's, when you consider traditional BIM workflows, it still might be the best software out there. But this is not the best software overall. Please don't confuse this. The traditional BIM software, that's what I'm talking about. But when I was studying it, when I was like, we had it in my, when I was a student as well, and when I started working, and I don't know, it's like you just accept it for what it is, because your lecturers are coming to you with this software and like, you can do this, you can do that. But it took me maybe 3 years to get it to a very high level. How to create families, how to make them parametric, how to coordinate stuff, how to use Autodesk Construction Cloud. This is very complex stuff that takes years to learn, you know? And then when we need to share files, people don't even realize this is like one of the blind spots I'm gonna circle back to in the end of this presentation. But when you share files, like you need to print from Revit, and it's all like you go from 3D back to 2D, you go a step back. I'm like, what? Why? It doesn't make any sense, you know? And then when I was at Big, it was very slow and unreliable, because I wouldn't have a single day where Revit wouldn't crash at least 3 times. Like, it would be a miracle day if this happened. It was normal crashing. We were, and I'm guessing people there still, and many architecture companies are losing so much work, productive work, over unreliable software. And again, I'm not blaming the software. Software is very old. I'm just trying to show people that there's the other side. And people just don't know about tools like SnapTruth. I mean, I'm not sponsored by any of the tools that I'm going to mention today, just so you know. But what I want to share is that there are tools like SnapTruth. They are not as wide as Revit is today, but they're coming there quickly. SnapTruth, for their sake, are based in New York City and I think Bangalore. And Bangalore, if you don't know, it's a city. It's like a Silicon Valley of India, you can call it. And they have 90 full-time employees working on developing this software. And what you can see here, that it's pretty easy to learn. It's like, you know, very easy, let's say, commands. It's collaborative, meaning you can see you have Jacob and Jenny and Freddie working in the same project at the same time. No more like, please, can you synchronize? You holding, you know, whatever it might be. And it's browser-based, meaning you can access it from anywhere, from any machine. It doesn't depend on your machine's power, you know. So, and this is only one of the apps that I'm going to share. Like, this is only like one simple example. And this is why I just want to realize that people, okay, let me take a step back. What I wanted to say is that when I get invited to presentations on the Balkans, and I'm from Croatia, right? But people, usually organizers tell me, can you please adapt it to our audience? Meaning that people think, Revit is the answer, Revit is the future. And I'm like, not really, it's not as clear as like the image is not as clear to me at least. So as you can see, this is a lot of, like, this old software and old ways of doing stuff have been giving a lot of headaches, not only to me. I know that everybody who uses Revit at a very advanced level has this opinion. But I mean, we're talking about Revit because this is a Revit user group, but there's other tools out there that might give even bigger headaches. But what I wanted to say is that it's not only me. There have been many developers, and this is where AI comes in. So now I want to switch the story back to AI for a second. So as you know, ChatGPT and OpenAI, they launched ChatGPT on November 30th, 2022. And I don't know if you were one of the first users or testers of this, but I remember I was, and I was joining the group of 100 million users because this ChatGPT at that time became the fastest growing app ever to exist. In only 2 months, it had 100 million users. I think it was only overtaken by Threads, which is kind of Instagram and Threads, Meta's stuff last year. But there was something very interesting that I found in what happened in this August, or when I was like researching, that today ChatGPT has the similar amount of weekly users, like 100 million, 120 million. And I was wondering, like, why is this, And I mean, I don't have a graph to show you, this is why. I can just give you my opinion. What I think happened is that people tested ChatGPT, and many have just, seen this is magic, this is amazing, but they didn't know how to use it fully. And I think my opinion on that is, you would use it once, twice, three times, and then you forget about it. You would just go to the old ways of doing stuff. And my opinion is because this is a new medium. Same like you had when TV came in and you were only used to radio. We haven't invented Kardashians. We haven't invented Netflix. We haven't invented all this new stuff because it was a new medium. We just copied. We were just copying news and I don't know, some talk shows and, some regular stuff that we had on radio. And same like when phones came in, we were just using like messaging and communicating. We didn't invent the app store, booking a tag, like, nothing of this existed, apps. So this was all new because when a new medium comes in, it takes time for us to learn how to use it. And this is, let's say, I want to show you some of the ways how you can use it. So what I want to start with is, of course, ChatGPT, which we talked about, but also custom GPTs. People don't know that this is something that's going to get bigger and bigger over time. And if you don't know what custom GPTs are, they're basically a customized versions of ChatGPT, where you usually give it your own information, your own data, be it PDFs, Word files, data points, Excels, whatever it might be, to make, let's say, a more customized assistant for yourself or for others. And usually, I mean, I give a bunch of ChatGPT or custom GPT workshops. I'm having one in Zagreb in a month. But the thing is, I love sharing. I love having these workshops because, let me tell you, it's like the best learning happens in a group. Because what happens is that, I mean, there's many fun examples. I'm not going to go into tangents right now, but I just want to mention that when you work with this in a group, when you have like a custom GPT workshop, some people are just going to use some basic ones that they see here, a website generator, automated writer, whatever. Some people are going to make their own. And this varies, like I had a guy make a beer GPT, like to advise on beer, I had a guy make like a whole ERP system, and like where orders come in, who's there, like everything with like it's amazing how far you can go. And of course you have like, there was a guy, okay, I'm gonna keep this story for another time. I don't want to go on tangents. So these are custom GPTs, but I want you to understand one thing about how LLMs work. So LLMs, large language models, are what usually people, when people talk about AI today, they talk about LLMs. AI is much broader than that. There's a lot to cover. I'm not going to go through it now, but if you're interested, go to my website. I'm going to mention it a bit later as well. But LLMs work on prediction. You can think of them as, I need to be careful what I say now, because I don't want to be called incorrectly, because they're giant guessing machines. But this guessing isn't guessing as human guessing, meaning that if I asked you something and I was like, okay, what's the capital of Kazakhstan? And you were like, you would guess based on some of the, but LLMs don't think like that necessarily. They think of the most probabilistic answer, and they're going to give you that. So that's why you really need to be specific on the question you're asking. And so when people work with LLMs, I usually say, give as much context as many data points as possible. And when I say that LLMs work on prediction, this is a great example. So when you ask an LLM, the actress that played Rose in the 1997 film Titanic, what's her name? It's going to tell you that it's Kate Winslet. But you can see that it has these percentages here. So Kate is the most probable answer based on its training data and on its trial and error, let's say, runs that it had before you. So it's not necessarily the correct answer, it's just the most probable one. So what I mean by that is that you really need to be careful with what you're getting from LLMs. And we could see this, I think, what is it now, 4 months ago, in May 2024, when Google released their AI overview. So you had examples of, you would Google fruits that end with UM, and AI overview would tell you, it's applum, bananum, strawberry, tomato, and it sounds convincing. It sounds like it's true, But the thing is, it's fully incorrect. Of course, these fruits don't exist, And this is important because it says according to Quora. So you just read some answer on Quora and it told you that as truth, I have another example. It's like, what do I have to do to be a saint? First, you have to die, and then you have to wait at least 5 years. Please don't do this, okay? I'm not recommending this. I'm just trying to show that LLMs can make mistakes, okay? And you as the human need to check it. And the final example I have is this. I'm feeling depressed. One Reddit user suggests jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. Like, it's, it can become dangerous too.
Oops.
Okay, so yeah. Again, please don't do this. I'm not suggesting any of this. I'm just trying to show that you shouldn't blindly trust what you get. I usually tell people that you get around, let's say, 80% or 75, depending on the task, but you can get 70 to 80% of a task done with LLMs. And it's not 100%. So people are, well, why should I even use it? I'm like, but 70% is still a lot. You can still get super far ahead. You just need to be like the control quality assurance person, Yes, let me move on. So back to, let's say, my story on how I'm actually ended up on this presentation, and you're listening to me, is because when ChatGPT came out, I knew I don't know much about the big wide world, but I knew some things about architecture. I knew some things about the AEC, and I was really passionate and really good at technology. I mean, I was working with it for years, And then I started making a list. I was finding many AI apps that were super exciting, And when I say many apps, I say many because, and if you ask me, let's say last year at this time, if I would have a company, I would say, come on, you're crazy, man. Like, no way, So I wouldn't say it happened, but what happened was the following. I started making this list of AI tools. I launched it. I called it the AEC AI Hub. Many of you maybe have heard about it or have gotten a link from it. But I launched like in February 2023, and it was 100 tools, AI tools. But over time, I kept adding. As I told you, I'm really passionate about technology. And for me, it was like, okay, I'm just doing my thing, And today, it became, let me show you on Notion for a second. Notion, just give me it became this here. Yes, you see my screen, everything's fine, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I was searching for the correct link and I posted here in the chat, I believe. So anyone who is interested could follow the link and see it live now.
Perfect. Yeah. So this became the world's largest database of AI tools for the AEC industry. And there's over 1,400 tools right now. And people ask me, how did you add them? I'm like, one by one. I don't know, like what else to say, because what you can see here is basically like a spreadsheet of like crazy many AI tools. I make a name and a category for, you can say most of them because it's been quite overwhelming to maintain it. I have some updates coming, but I'm going to keep that for a next, let's say, update. You can find the URL and then you can see the description. And then what started happening is that people were like, okay, I don't need 1,400 tools. I mean, I need one that solves my problem. So they would call me and they're like, listen, you researched all of this. Can you help me? Let's meet for an hour. Let's discuss our technology use. And I was like, okay, all of a sudden I have like 10 meetings a day. Maybe I can charge for this. Maybe I can like ask for money, you know? And they were like, yeah, sure. Okay, here's money. And I was like, okay, now I have a business. So this is how my business came to be. I mean, as I said, it didn't fall from the sky, but it wasn't something I was like planning for years. I'm going to do this and I'm like, I mean, I'm just doing things I would do anyway, you know? So how is this helping people? You know, you might think, oh, this is just a giant spreadsheet. How is it helping people is that I get daily messages. And this is, let's say, a main part of my business. I share everything. So all of my knowledge I share for free. I get daily emails, daily DMs. I regularly stay until midnight, 1, 2 in the night, answering these. And there are many people. For example, just last night, there was a person asking me if there's a way to create DWGs from text prompts. You can create some BIM models from text prompts, which I'm going to mention, but can you create WGs, you know? So like questions like this. And what I suggest, like as the first step for everybody who might be wondering about something, is open this AEC Hub in Notion, click on this little search button, and if you, let's say you want to do inspection, you know, you just write inspection. And all of a sudden, from 1,400, you have 8 tools that have inspection written somewhere. Now, of course, you might be missing some because maybe some are tools you could use for inspection, but they might not have written inspection. But it's already let's say you're a step ahead just by narrowing your search down to something you might need. So just like look for keywords, you know, DVG or DWG, you know, there's only 2. There's, of course, more. If you write AutoCAD, if you write Point Cloud or whatever it might be, you know, but look for keywords. And of course, you can always use these categories to filter things out. There's many categories, 15 actually. So this is how people are using it. And I have universities, companies using it all around the world. And this is how people, let's say, started to get to know me on LinkedIn, because this is all for free. Everything I share here is for free. And then let me also mention one more thing. Or the next thing is that people are like, oh yeah, there's many apps. I don't have time to go through all of them. Is there a summary of them? And then I say, yes, there is. I created these cheat sheets. So under the AEC Hub, you can still, I'm probably going to be moving that soon, but you can still find these cheat sheets, okay? They're also free. They are A3 size. And what you can see here is that there's concepts on how the AI works, you can call it. You have BIM plus AI, generative modeling, whatever it is. Use cases, what you can use it for, and some key AI tools. Okay, so this is, let's say, one of them. I have 3 of them plus some LLM use cases. So I'm just going to show you this one, let's say, for now, because I'm really proud of this one because it's separated by stages. You know, so if you're working for design, you can check out this. Even prop tech, you have it here. If you're working for detail design, engineering, this is what you can check out as the first one. And this is only, let's say, like this whole database. People are like, but why aren't you charging money for it? I'm like, listen, because even if you get an answer here, this is what people don't realize. Choosing an AI app is a 1-hour job, but implementing that app is a 1-year job. And this is where, let's say this is the second step of the process when people start to work with me, because they're like, okay, I found this app. Maybe I don't have all the skills, how to use it, how to deploy it, how to teach my employees to use it, because that's where the real change happens. You know, you have many people who are very interested in this and who want to learn, and they can get it like that. But as soon as you start, let's say, dispersing this knowledge across your organization, this is where the real challenges start. So let me close this and let me go back to the presentation. Yes, so this is what I mentioned. Again, all of this is for free. And if somebody's going to have any questions, please reach out. And what I'm going to continue on, let me just check my time. Okay, what I'm going to continue with are some, let's say, really cool examples. When I usually give presentations, I call it the 3 pillars of AI implementation, because again, any successful implementation, if you ask me, rests on these 3 pillars. And I'm not going to go through 3 of them today. We don't have time and for that. But I'm going to mention the first pillar. And this is technology. And this is what, for people who want to nerd out on what is possible, but not so much on the process and how to implement it and so on. So technology, what is out there? What is AI allowing us that we weren't able to do before? Is one of the first things. What you can do today and you weren't able to do before, you can crumble a piece of paper, okay? And you can create this amazing design. This was never possible before. And these are not my images. This is by Studio Tim Fu. I really recommend following him and his company. He's also, you can call this one of these AI influencers. He was at Zaha Hadid and then he opened his own company. And they're doing some really amazing stuff with rendering, with creating, augmented reality stuff and how to use AI to the fullest. I really recommend following that. But if you want to get started yourself, if you're like, okay, tell me the apps I can just use myself for rendering, this is what I recommend. So I separated them into 3 categories: easy, medium, and hard. So the easy category is something you can easily get started with, right? So of course, Midjourney, many of you know. Veras, you can implement it now in it's just a SaaS, for Revit, for SketchUp, for Vectorworks. They're having many of these ArchiCAD, I think, even now. And of course, Render. A lot of companies use Render. Why I say it's easy? Because it's easy to implement it. It's easy to get started with. It's usually like a monthly subscription you pay. Very, let's say, affordable. But the problem is that these apps don't give you that much control. If you ever use Midjourney, you probably got something mystical looking, and it's like if you want to change, if you have a house, you want to change 1 million on a window, and please, good luck with that. It doesn't work, right? It's like it's really hard. So this is where the second step comes in, and these are like the medium. Let's say they require some more, like not so much, but like some more technical expertise to know what exactly you're looking for. And these are Lukex and Corbu, and there are differences between these 2 companies. But what they're basically doing is that you have more control of your render in the end of your image. And then if you want to have the most control, I would say maybe even the best option, but definitely the hardest option to implement is Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion is a free open source piece of software, AI image generation. But why is it not used that much? Because we are architects and engineers, we are not programmers, because you really need to have technical expertise to know how to install this, to know how to use it, how to tweak it, and so on. So of course, it depends where you are on the spectrum, because I speak to many people, many clients. Some are just like directors and CEOs. They haven't been dealing with technology since floppy disks. But then I have many like hackathon people. They're like, yeah, Stable Diffusion, that's for us. So it depends where you are on the spectrum. So this is, let's say, one example for design creation, for rendering. Another, let's say, whole group of apps that I like to share are for generative design. Generative design is different than generative AI, but that's a story for another time. But generative design is something that's been here around for many years now. And maybe the most popular software from there is Autodesk Forma. It's, let's say, Autodesk's bet on a new piece of BIM software, which is not BIM. I mean, pretty much it is, but not so much yet. They plan to do it in the future. But it's a space, like it was SpaceMaker from Norway, from Oslo. I was in their office. I know the guys, and they were bought in 2020 by Autodesk. And what you can do there is like sun analysis, light analysis, wind analysis. It's pretty early design, so it's not, let's say, it's not for everybody. And then you would anyway need to take it to Revit, right? But something that I really like talking about is Schema. Schema was made, or the founder of Schema is one of early Revit developers, Marty. And Marty has created Schema because he figured out this problem that we have in the AEC industry, and this is that we always start from new projects. We always like it's very hard to copy things from one project to another. So he created Schema, and what Schema does essentially is that you can look into your past designs, meaning your bathrooms, your conference rooms, your whatever kitchen, and you can create these kind of puzzle pieces. Let's say a catalog of like these blocks. So when you have a new building, you can just click and match, and it's LOD 350. You can create buildings much faster. And then one of the exciting ones is Hypar. I don't know, probably Petar, you heard about it, but I don't know if others have. Hypar is a very exciting app because the founder of Hypar is a guy who created Dynamo for Revit. So he's building something, let's say, essentially as amazing, if not better than that. And Hyper is a text to BIM tool. So you prompt your way to a BIM model. You just write, I need a 10-story building with six rooms on each story, blah, blah, and it creates a BIM model for you. Limitations are some. Currently, I heard it's only 90-degree angles, so you can't, anything in between. But it's very promising how far this is coming, right? Yes. Moving on. I like talking about Bimify because Bimify is an app that, I mean, let me actually give you a use case, right? Because I know a lot of people are like, let's say you need to scan a hospital, you need to scan a university, or whatever building you need to renovate. And what you usually do, you take your Faro, your Leica, whatever camera, you go around, you scan it, and then you get a point cloud, right? And then that point cloud, I mean, usually if you're in Western Europe, you send it to Bulgaria, but if you're in Bulgaria, you might send it to Bangladesh or Vietnam, where there's cheaper labor force. I mean, don't take anything personally, really. These are the facts, right? That businesses are using. And this creates bottlenecks because there's always trouble in communication and there's always like hard to find. I mean, I was doing this for years. I was working when I was at Sweco, I was sending like thousands of hours to Bangladesh, literally thousands of hours. And I know there's some benefits, but there's also some downsides. So what Bimify does is that you can take this point cloud, and instead of sending it overseas, you can just give it to Bimify, and you can create a BIM model out of it. As it says here, you can you can give it anything, point cloud, CAD, PDF, image, whatever it might be, and it creates a BIM model. And it's really good. I've seen the demos. I know the guys there. They're doing some really amazing stuff. So this is something I would really recommend checking out. The Bimify is not the only one in this space, but it's definitely one of the best apps in this space. This one, of course, Anker, if you've heard from Howard, you had his presentation, but I wanted to mention it because I have a personal story with it, or let's say a personal story of not knowing about Anker is when I was at Big, I was working on this big project, a big hotel, and it had 2,000 doors, okay? And each door had 34 parameters. So this is like size, width, how far in the door, materials of the knob, glass, all of these are parameters. And you think, 2,000 doors. And these are only doors, okay? I'm not talking about the rest 50,000 square meter project. These are only doors. So you think, 2,000 doors, 34 parameters for each door. Guys, this is 60,000 data points I need to manually put in. And God forbid I make a mistake, right? Because like, how many coffees do I need for this? How much focus time do I need not to make a mistake? And they order a wrong door and they blame Stjepan. And I'm like, there must be a smarter way. I wish back then I knew about Anker, because what Anker does is that it connects this. So it connects your databases with your BIM models, so you can manage it easily and simply, I wish I knew about this back then, but this is why I'm sharing it now, because you might be in the similar spot and not know about software like this. Okay, moving on to a bit of construction. So this is a company called Built Robotics, and I'm pretty sure you heard about autonomous cars. Maybe even seen some videos. I know when I was in LA, Waymo is very popular, but I don't know if you heard about autonomous excavators. And this is what you can see on the image. As you can see here and here, there's nobody. These excavators or these machines, better said, are working with each other with nobody controlling them. Or, I mean, better said, they have this is the crucial thing. They have like these big computers. They're AI-driven computers that are, let's say, so they're programmed how to work together. And think about this. You might think, why do we even need this? First of all, this is much safer. You're not risking anybody's life. Okay, this is a flat field, but you might be on a steep climb, They can work all the time. They are probably more quality than, people to get distracted and so on. These guys don't get distracted. So this is very promising for the construction industry. Another one is Sparkel. I don't know if you've had Magnus over, but I really recommend inviting him because this is where you can chat with your BIM model. A lot of construction people or construction companies are, let's say, They get weird BIM models. BIM models are missing data. It's very hard to make schedules. They call architects, they call engineers. Can you fix this? And this is very cumbersome, very expensive as well. So what you can do here is like this little black, let's say, box. You just write in how many windows do I have on the second floor? How many, how much foundation do I have, and so on. So this is, let's say, an easy way to navigate. And I'm just gonna say one thing. The model can't know more than you do, because I had a guy test this out. I was at a workshop, and the guy tested this out, and he's like, "Well, where are my tiles?" I'm like, "But did you put them in the model?" He's like, "No, I just know they're coming tiles." I'm like, "But how can AI know this if you didn't tell it?" Like you need to make sure that your model is correct, and you have this information somewhere. This is why we have BIM models in the first place. So this information is not in your head or your email; it's actually in the model. But that's sorry, a side note. Another tool, and I promise I'm not gonna let's say go a lot longer with technology. I'm gonna start wrapping up in around 10 minutes. So Gantt AI, for those who do construction schedules, I've never seen a happy person do construction schedules, really, because they're always like stressed, and because things change all the time. How can you? Because you make a construction schedule on day one, on day two, it's already completely different. So Gantt AI is actually helping you have higher accuracy of how things are actually going to happen by looking into your past schedules, by helping you create new ones based on that. And then another tool that I like sharing is InspectMind out of San Francisco, because for inspections, when you go around the site, usually what you do is you take a bunch of photos, a bunch of videos, a bunch of notes, and then you go back to your office. And even though the inspection took an hour, you will likely see people take like 8 hours to write a report on this Word file, upload these images, add text, and it's like you're just wasting a lot of time. Because what InspectMind is actually able to do with you is that you can go still around the site, you take your photos, you take your videos, you take your voice notes, and it creates a formatted report for you in around 15 minutes. So while you're driving back to the office, it's already done. And what this company is also now has for like 3 or 4 weeks, they're testing out with the Meta Ray-Ban sunglasses. I don't know if you've seen that, but these glasses that can film and have videos on them. So you can go around the site with sunglasses, and it's film videos, and you use those videos as let's say the base for making these inspection reports. And let's go a step back to Revit, because this is a Revit user group after all. So I'm going to mention just like 3 tools. If you haven't used Glyph, this is the part where you can start, let's say, automating your drawings. So instead of you adding all the tags manually, adding all the dimensions, you can look into Glyph to automate this for you. There's also a tool called BIMlogic, or actually a company called BIMlogic from Australia. I think they're based, and they also have this kind of co-pilot where you can ask it. You can say, please make these sheets for me. Please make this for me. Please annotate, and so on. And then the third tool is DTO, or Design Together. They're based in Boston. And maybe some of you have seen the latest BIMpure episode, or one of the latest ones, where they presented this tool. So what DTO does is that it takes your details, meaning that a lot of time is spent on producing architectural details. So what you do here is that you take a section or like a call out in Revit, and then you have DTO's database. It's American based, but you can have your own company details plugged in there for your own custom database. And then it finds something similar, right? And then with one click, you can transfer that all to Revit to create this fully annotated detail in a matter of, I wouldn't say seconds, but definitely minutes. And there's also one, let's say, and like just think about how much time can this save, both to you as like a young architect that doesn't need to ask for so much experience from other architects, senior ones, but also for not forgetting about cold bridges, not forgetting about membranes. Just think about it. Like with a few clicks, you already have a detail that you then need to finish up, and that's it. So it can save you thousands of hours. And this was actually tested with a company, Map Architects. They do a lot of, let's say, data centers in the United States. And you can see here that in time to search for design reference in the conventional way, you would look for 20 minutes in books, online, whatever. With DTO, because you have that catalog, it takes around 3 minutes. When you need to document, you need to 75 in a convention, like an hour and 15 minutes. Usually with documentation here, it's like 10 minutes just to finish up. And then to complete the DWG, you can see like it's much faster. All right, and I see that time is running away slowly. We still have time, of course, but this is why I want to start, let's say, slowly wrapping up, because the next tool I'm about to share is Swap. I don't know if you heard about it. It looks nothing fancy, but I promise you, if you're going to remember one app from all of these, please remember Swap. I'm going to tell you why, okay? Because when ChatGPT, okay, let me ask you this. Have you known about OpenAI before ChatGPT? Most likely not. You've never heard about OpenAI. The thing is that they weren't like a secretive company. People around the circle knew about them, but they were building in secret. They were building in stealth. So when they launched, everybody was amazed and everybody knew about them, right? So this is what Swap is doing for the AEC industry, okay? So how does it work? They're based in Tel Aviv, and I speak with the founder, let's say once in a while. So what does Swap do? They want to become the app that at some point, when they launch in around 3, 4, 5 years, nobody knows when, probably not even them. So when they launch, you will just need to create your 3D model. Okay, you create 3D model in any software, and they take your 3D model and create fully annotated 2D drawings, sections, plans, details, everything in around 30 to 40 minutes. I mean, this changes everything if you ask me. Like, these are fully annotated, code-checked construction documentation drawings that are fully done. They currently have, I think, like 80% of their employees are researchers, AI researchers, so not even like people, because they're still building it and they're not looking for clients. I asked them because they're like, we're not looking for clients. We only have like some clients that are, how do you call them? They're for testing, they're just to test what's the newest one. But once they launch, it's going to be a big thing, I promise you. And like Swap is not the only company, but it's one of like the two I know of that are focusing on solving this. So this is just to put it on your radar. It's nothing you can use tomorrow, let's say, but maybe the day after tomorrow, who knows? So yeah. Okay, with that said, I want to start wrapping up. And what I hope you understood from this presentation is that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. You can see many of these companies and many of the use cases are already being used. I know myself, I just don't have time for all the stories because I consult clients all around the world. And then one thing I didn't mention in this whole story is Autodesk AI. What about it? And this is a slide I just made today because oh my God. I have a lot of opinions about Autodesk, and in my opinion, their AI is too little too late. Why? Because of the issues I was telling you in the beginning. It's old software they're trying to just add AI on top of. And for some use cases, yes, it's gonna work, it's gonna be good, and it's probably gonna have many users because they already have millions of users, but they're not flexible, they can't easily switch and react to customers working back with them. So if you can use it for something, yes. If you're expecting that it's going to solve many of the issues that, let's say, Revit has today, I don't think so. I need to see more to believe it, because Autodesk is big usually on promises, but very and listen, I know many people working at Autodesk. I know some really amazing people, so nothing against them. I just think their leadership is not super focused on client satisfaction. They're more focused on profit generation. And this is not only my opinion. And I really, let's say, maybe publicly call Andrew Anagnos to answer my comments on his posts. So if he ever sees this, please, man. Listen, I'm just a guy who wants the better AEC industry. I'm nothing against anybody, not even Autodesk. So please just answer my comments when I comment, on your LinkedIn posts. But that's, yeah. Sorry, this is just a side note. Yes, because why? What is happening if it's not Autodesk, as we all think this is like this gigantic company? I want people to realize this, and please, if you're gonna remember one thing, please remember this slide. It's nothing super fancy slide. It's just about what I'm going to say. Because when people ask me what is the future of the AEC, this is usually, I tell them, yes, I can tell you some of the apps that you can use for your usual workflows, but this could be your biggest blind spot. And this is that you don't see how the future can be better. So let me explain this. What you see here is that we have a bunch of manual connections. Think about it. When you need to create a model or create drawings because you're selling drawings, what do? You make a model, then you go a step back to 2D, as I said. Then you print, which is all the digital. You go even a step back to like print like physically. Then you need to save it on your servers, final V2, final V3, send it over WeTransfer. No, we actually use that. We actually use this. Like there's so many error-prone channels in this workflow that you don't even realize because everybody's working like that. So nobody even realizes that there's a better option. So when I say a better option is this, is when a bunch of these manual connections are connected with automation and with AI, and of course, open source applications. And to maybe circle all of this, if you were like, but what could this be? Like, is there a software that can solve it? Yes, there is a software called Speckle. Petar, I don't know if you heard about Speckle. Probably, yes. But many people
We've
have
got a
heard
presentation also some time ago here on the
amazing.
user group. Yeah.
Yes, amazing. Then you guys know. Then you're already like a step further. Because I usually call Speckle the 70% solution. What I mean by that is that it's gonna solve 70% of your problems, but it's gonna take 70% of effort and time to actually implement it because it's a if you're one of the 7 partners that are just gonna switch from not using it, because what does Speckle do? I mean, like it does many things, but I just like to maybe summarize for people who might not know is that one of the biggest things is that I can work in ArchiCAD, somebody can work in Revit, somebody else can work in Power BI, whatever, and we're all working on the same project. And when we need to send the newest update of this project, you just send a link to the newest model, to the newest, whatever it is. It's all updated in the cloud. And the best thing about Speckle is that it's free. It's free to use. It's only when you host your projects on their servers that it costs money. And I'm like, this is like such a simple way to get started with like the future of the AEC. And people are like, oh, really? I didn't even like, this is what I'm trying to change with these kind of presentations. And I had a client 3 weeks ago, and I was telling them about Speckle. Of course, nobody heard. This client, when she heard it, when this BIM manager, she told me, this is BIM as it was supposed to be. And I can't agree more with this, yeah. So with that said, I hope that from all of this, we talked a lot about technology, nerding out and what's possible. But I hope you're going to understand this, that first of all, if you want to have the future-proof skill set, like to actually build skills, not only to know about things, but actually to know how to use it and what it is, you need to have a mindset that understands it, not being super skeptical about things, but just testing it out and see how it can help you. This is, I mean, why I have my own business today. I really believe because of my mindset, that I just want to test out and understand what it is. Is it really as good as they say? What can I use it for? Second thing, I really think that we should start applying this and implementing. And if you're, let's say, an aspiring entrepreneur, or maybe maybe you have some ideas, maybe I can start something of my own. You can start an AI agency today building chatbots for people, and people are going to pay you massive amounts of money for doing this. But people are just like, no, I'm just going to stick. Sure, stick if that's your path and future, sure. But I'm just telling you, there's many different ways you can use AI, not only in the AEC, in the wide range of industries. And then that's the third thing, you can start developing and building solutions. So this is, let's say, all of these 3 are something I'm doing with my own business as well. And for those who want to learn more, as I've said, I'm sharing everything for free, 100% of my knowledge. Whoever emails me, texts me, I'm going to share as much as I can. You can start from I actually need to change the slide. It's 1,400 now, AI apps in this world's largest database. There's cheat sheets, and of course, I'm very close to 20K followers, which I think is God's blessing, because I'm just, as I told you, I'm just doing things I would do anyway. I'm just interested in this. I want to help the AEC industry move forward. And there's a lot of people interested in this. So if you want to learn more, please follow me. I share, at least weekly or something. So yeah. And for those who want to learn more, who want to, let's say, build like not only have like this surface level knowledge, who actually want to have AI skills, this is what I offer. This is how my business works. I offer digital courses because I can only be in one spot at one time. I mean, I'm human after all, but I also do in-person workshops and customized consultations. But definitely the easiest part to start working with me are the courses. I offer two currently. The first one, Discovering AI in AEC, I just launched it on October 7th. So it's very fresh, very new. And this is, let's say, for most people, it's for beginners, for those who want to understand what AI is, how AI works, what are the, like, let's say, personal AI demos, and also to answer some very tough questions like, what about intellectual property? What about data security? What about training bias? What about hallucinations? I'm answering all of that in this course. And I'm also providing like a top 100 because nobody needs 1,400, but the top 100 AI apps you can use in the AEC. So everything's there in this, let's say, beginner's course. And if you open my website, you're probably going to see it's 150 euros. I'm very open about my pricing as well. But the only discount I offer, I don't do any Black Friday, Christmas discounts, nothing. The only discount I offer is for lower income countries. And if you're based in Bulgaria, I think it's around 40%. And this, let me actually find it, and then I'm going to go back. And just because I offer these discounts, people have recognized it. And what you can see here in the middle, it's a small map. But my first course sold in 54 countries. And I'm like, really? Like, because I was like, oh man, this is incredible. I couldn't believe, And my second course, I was actually, let me show you. I was just before our meeting here, I was making the world map. This is the second course. It's 33 countries so far. As you can see, I have a lot of Spanish-speaking and Portuguese-speaking countries left here. And of course, a big part of Africa and Asia. But I'm going to get there. It's because I have a lot of updates coming for this. And maybe something I want to share is that, yeah, these are like some more details because it's, what are the differences between the two courses, Mastering AECs for, let's say, for professionals, for those who want to become future AI managers, which is something I'm also covering in the first course. So this is, I mean, if you want to wait it out until early December, sure, do that. It's more expensive, but it covers a lot. Like it covers all the AI apps for architecture, engineering, construction, how you can use it, how to make an AI strategy, AI implementation, ROI of AI. There's a lot. So these are the courses, and these are the results so far, and this is what people say about it. So it's not only me saying, I think God has blessed me more than I deserve in my life. So yeah, it's really amazing with this business. But I promised you something, and I'm already over time. I'm so sorry that I went a bit over time. Yes, I promised you the 24 AI apps I use myself. So let's just get them all. And I'm going to open them all and then talk a little bit so you can take a screenshot. Oh, sorry. Opa. Yes, like this. So these are my personal AI apps. What I use myself. I like sharing this because this is, let's say, the first step to learning about AI and how to use it and so on, what to use it for. All around, I use ChatGPT on a daily basis. I use Claude more and more. And I don't know if you saw this update from yesterday where it can control your computer. It's in beta. It's really amazing. Like these AI agents. TinyWow from changing files, formats, everything like this. For research, I don't use Google anymore as much. I use it in like 10% of cases. In 90%, I use Perplexity. And then Merlin and Harpa AI are tools that can integrate within your browser. So it's really cool if you want to have it just there. Of course, for email, Copilot, ChatGPT, yes, definitely. Even though I don't recommend Copilot to everybody right now, I mean, this is what people are. Oh, really? I heard Copilot. Yes, if you're a heavy Microsoft Office user, definitely go for it. But if you're not, just pay up for ChatGPT and it's going to be more than enough right now. Maybe in a month, depending on when you're watching this, it's different. So for notes, taking notes, I don't even take notes anymore for my meetings. Everything is filmed, everything's recorded for internal purposes, of course, in most cases. So Fathom, Cogram, and Fireflies is most what I use, but also Notion for my like hubs and so on. For calendar, Motion and Reclaim AI are something people use. I don't use it myself because I do my calendar in a different way, but yeah. For design, Canva, definitely yes, go ahead. Miro as well for boards, for collaboration. And some of the, let's say, figures in this presentation were also made with Napkin AI. Test it out. but I'm also giving demos of many of these apps in the Discovery AEC if you want to see how I'm using it. And then for automation, make.com and Zapier. For images, Midjourney and Luma AI. Luma AI, just download the app and make a video. It's really, really cool. And for videos, I use Loom. I use Screen Studio for Mac and Veed and OpenSlip and Guide to create really, let's say, easy to navigate guides. And with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed. I hope this wasn't too overwhelming. I really tried my best to explain it simply as much as I could. And that was me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. I think I'm speaking for all of us because it was really nice to hear from first person, I don't know, someone who actually uses this on a daily basis because I believe most of us are just heard about this, about that, and didn't try all the things. Very well structured presentation, so thank you very much. Now is the time if anybody has any question, could directly ask or use the chat.
Yes, please go ahead, guys. Let me also open it so I can see. Just a second. It was amazing. Congratulations and thanks, Stjepan. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, let me see. Jordan had some questions.
Maybe
Yes.
it was something about the tool that automatically creates the details. I think his question was related to the systems that are used. I'm not quite sure. Let me.
Yeah, I think it's for DTO as well. I mean, listen, I have many, let's say, people I work with, I know using DTO, and usually it's very hard to use it in Europe. I'm not going to lie, but I do know the founders as well, and they're really agile and really, let's say, they're one of the only companies doing this, or maybe the only company doing this because they saw the issue, they wanted to fix it. So I know that just by having this mindset and being a startup, as I told you, a very young software company, they can really easily help you in many cases. So please check them out and ask them for many or all specific questions. So yeah.
No, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, we can hear you.
Hello, thanks for the presentation. I just have one more question. Like, given the list, 1,400, and just given overall what you're doing at the moment, which I think is amazing, how do you have the time to actually sift through like what's actually working? Because there's a lot of bullshit apps out there, let's face it. And a lot of people just make this fancy presentation and their landing page on the website is amazing, but the app actually doesn't do anything like that.
That's a really good question, Jordan. I really, So I'll be honest with you. From 1,400 apps, I've maybe spoken to around 10, 15% of them, maybe 20% of them. I've spoken to directly, I've seen demos. It's very hard to give a number, but these are like the crucial apps I know, and they are the ones I can really recommend. Most of them, of course, are, I mean, not even I have the time to research all of this because it's just so wide. The answer on how, because many of them are maybe even over-promising. This is, maybe I can tell you a story. I had a guy and he has this, let's say, an app for design creation. And I was also very surprised by this because my whole agenda is that I want to be as honest as possible. If something doesn't work, if something is shit, is shit, you know, if I'm not going to recommend it because I know that your reputation can go away in one day. So why not be honest from the beginning? But this guy had something on his website, like thousands of users, you know, and it's like a startup, you know, it's like a young company. I'm like asking him, how you have thousands of users? Oh, wow. He's like, no, this is marketing stuff. I'm like, what? What do you mean? He's like, no, I just put it there for marketing stuff. I'm like, man, how can you do this? How can you be like this honest, you know? So I don't have an answer for your question, unfortunately, in terms of who to trust. Unfortunately, this is what's happening. My whole agenda is because usually only the bigger companies have the resources to test this out. Only they have the, you know, enough people, manpower, and time to invest and test many apps and see what works and what doesn't work. And I know that most of AEC companies are small AEC companies, meaning 100 people or fewer, and they don't have the resources. We are all the way too busy with deadlines. And you know, we probably even found a hard time to find time for this. So this is what I do. This is like, if somebody tells me, can you please look into this? I definitely will do, you know. So I'm trying to fix this on behalf of many. So this is my whole agenda. So I don't have an answer for you, which exactly to trust. But this is why I believe testimonials are a powerful thing. You know, you can just ask others. And maybe just one short reflection on what you just said is that this has actually been happening with my business. People think about, you sold courses in many countries, you know, 50, 33, whatever, you know. And you just started 6 months ago. The thing is, I started 2 years ago with LinkedIn posts. I haven't, you know, missed a week or even 10 days in 2 years. And for a year and a half, nothing happened. People were liking stuff, but nobody was like, you know, reaching out and trying to work with me because I was just like some guy on LinkedIn, right? So what started happening after a year and a half are two things, okay? First thing is that a person would come and say, I've been following you for a year and a half. In what they meant is, I trust you now, let's work together, you know, because it took time for them to trust me. Or the other thing was, I heard from a colleague about you, and they trust their colleague, so they want to work with you immediately. So it's, it just takes time for these things. And like, we are still very early in many things in some regards. So I think that this is what I'm trying to do. I created the world's largest database. And of course, I'm going to keep expanding it with new tools. But my focus right now is to actually summarize it. This is why in this Discovering AEC course, I have the top 100 apps. And what I plan for Mastering AEC is actually to make 10 apps for every industry. Because what are the 10 best apps that are checked that you can trust? So I'm sorry, this is a bit of a longer answer, but it's a complicated question. So yeah.
No, it's not a long answer. Thank you. And can I ask you one more thing?
Sure.
Because I've been looking mostly into some AI that deals with like layouts and layout generation, different types of feasibility studies. What experience do you have with that? Because I haven't had the time to test Finch 3D yet. And I've seen this company also, Parametric Solutions, I think from Sweden. Can you give me some more insights if you have experience with those companies?
Yes, I think that, so generative design, I mentioned it here quickly on this presentation, is, let's say, a very wide area. You have many startups, as you know yourself, in this field. And I think it's because it's been here for a while. I think already around 2016, people started making these apps. My first suggestion would be try to look at their offices, because usually these companies start by managing sites around their area. Okay, this is one thing. And the second thing is how AEC people do business. I can also share, because I just made the list of how many students join my new course and so on in the first 2 weeks. And the thing is, I noticed a lot of, let's say, a lot of people from the countries I was visiting for conferences were joining, and not so much where I wasn't physically, because people want to meet you physically and, you know, then do business with you. So this is what I would recommend. Check their offices, because, for example, Forma is going to tell you that they have like, global, all the sites, but it's, you know, whether it's true or not, it depends. I know for Norway, they have it because it's Pacemaker. They're based there. So in regards to this, I can't give you a specific answer because I don't know where your projects are based. Maybe you are probably based in Bulgaria, but maybe you work for Germany, maybe you work for, I don't know, Netherlands, who knows? So I can't give it like, this is the app you should check, but I would definitely check, you know, many of them. I also know about Parametric and Finch, and they have many interested people. So just like check their offices and check their locations. This is what I would start with. Where are the sites they're covering? I think this is very important. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Thank you again for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you for joining in, man. Yeah, let's see. We have another impressive and deeply inspiring. Thank you so much, Enrico. I mean, I told you guys, I didn't expect to have a business, and for me, this is everything's a blessing, really, in my life. So yeah, thank you guys so much for guys. Hi, Enrico. Hi, see you. What's up? All right. Yes.
Maybe I could use the time if you have some more time to ask a couple of questions. You mentioned that there are 3 pillars, and you mentioned only the first one. Could you just scratch the surface and mention the other 2 pillars that are important for the AI implementation?
Oh man, you want to get all the goodies immediately. No, it's completely fine. Because this is something I share, like, let's say, for presentations where I join and so on. So I can tell you the second pillar because I mentioned it, but I'm gonna, let's say, keep the third and probably the most important pillar, not hidden, but like if you want to hear, come join on a conference and come hear me speak.
Fair enough.
But the second is process. The second is process, and it doesn't sound so fancy, but it's very important on how you actually go about implementing. Because if you ever try to have a relationship or talk with your brother or sister, or it's like nobody's going to change unless they have intrinsic motivation to change, right? It's very hard to push anybody to change. So when we speak about AI, we talk about change. And if you ask me, it's mainly positive change, but of course there's some negative. If people are going to lose jobs, yes, definitely. I'm not going to even hide the fact that it's going to happen. But I think, as I told you, I think that our global problems are much bigger than than this. But what I want to say with that is that there are many techniques, because what I'm doing today is that I consult, I speak with many, let's say, both companies and individuals. And I was an employee myself, and I know how hard it is to try to implement change from the bottom up, And then for example, one of my clients here is the company, actually, I quit, Sweco. They're one of the companies that are my clients today. So I'm speaking with the chief digital officer and the CEO as well here, and they're telling me about their ways, their methods of doing it from up, from not from the bottom up, but from the up to the bottom, how to implement change from these both sides. And I think the truth of like the most successful implementation is somewhere in the middle. It also depends on the size of your company, the people you have. Are they A, B, C players? It really depends. There are many differences in people you work with, and on your caliber of people. So so process is very important. But this is the second pillar, that I'm going to share.
Okay, thank you. And something else that I was thinking about while you were sharing some of the tools, and also specifically the presentation that I saw earlier about DTO, the tool that was creating the details. And I was thinking about how important it is to have certain standards or system established in first place in order to be able to implement something like that. Because when I'm thinking about our local situation here in Bulgaria, it's like there are no standards. Like every project is on its own and is very different. Every construction company has different standards. So it's really hard. So if we should start from a certain point, the first step before even think about implementing AI and tools like that, how important is to establish certain standards and certain processes in order to be able to go on the next level with all the tools that you are presenting today?
Yeah, this is a great question. Thank you so much. I think that I think my perspective is somewhat unique because I had this chance to work for big. So and why big is different, I'm going to tell you in a second. Because usually people, and I also grew up like this, meaning that I was educated like this, standards are something we need. We need standards. And of course, like the issues that for example, the issue that I spoke with this person last night, she sent me an email. She's like, how can I create DWGs from text prompts, And I'm like, why do you need that? And she's like, it just takes so much time to edit all of these when there's a change. And I'm like, but that's why you have BIM for. You don't need a text prompt. That's why you have BIM, because you make one change in the model and it changes all the drawings. It's like a no-brainer, right? But they're not that far in the process. And that's limiting them, even with this AI tools, like what we were talking about. So this is, of course, you need to use BIM. And when we talk about standards, there's two sides of the story, okay? One side is that I believe that if you don't have standards, I see it as an opportunity. I don't see it as a problem. I see it as an opportunity for each one of you to actually be that person to create these standards. Because how else can you, the thing is that what technology is allowing us, especially as young and professionals in the industry, is that I'm 28 years old and I have customers in so many countries. Why? Because of technology. Because I doubled down on that. Didn't need to wait for 20 years, climb the corporate ladder, and then be some guy, and so on. And then, I could just work for a few years, relatively few years, with technology and become the world expert. So this is what I want to tell people about standards. If there's no standards, take it as an opportunity, create your own, but create it from the, let's say, from this mindset. Please take this mindset into consideration. What's the easiest, fastest way to make the biggest change? Please do that, because otherwise people go on tangents and they go, we need this, we need naming, we need drawing. I'm like, this is way too complicated. Not even you understand it. And especially when you try to implement it, nobody's going to follow it. You're just going to waste hours and months of your life. So go on the easiest, simplest way to make the biggest change in the least amount of time possible. And this is pro standards, but I wanted to share the other perspective, which I have. And this is when I was at Big, actually Bjarke, the founder, he was anti-standards guy, to be honest with you. And you might wonder, what? There's no standards? Like, what's happening here? Listen, of course we had some standards, like how our drawings should look like. What's our, like, let's say, stamp of approval on the drawings, on the models, and so on. Of course, there are some standards we're following. But the reason that Big doesn't have as many standards as many companies would think they have is because Bjarke wanted every project to be different. He didn't want us to look into our past project and, let's do it standard-based, and let's create a new project that's basically the same. You understand the mentality? Like, it's very different than most companies think. So this is, let's say, two sides of the story, and this is why I say the mindset of, let's say, the biggest, fastest change in the easiest way is the best one. And of course, again, take it as an opportunity. I took everything as an opportunity. There wasn't an AI list before. I just started making a list. I mean, maybe somebody's gonna find benefit. So So, and today companies like 2 weeks ago, I couldn't believe, man. Like NVIDIA called me. NVIDIA, like they called me. They're like, this guy from NVIDIA, some manager, like a higher level manager. He's like, I've been following you for a year. I'm like, what? Really? Like, oh man, I can't believe like companies like that reach out and they're like, I love your work. Let's connect. Let's work together. I'm like, wow, I can't even believe. So and it's all because you see an opportunity and you decide to become that person to solve that, to take that opportunity, because everybody can complain, but you didn't hear me complaining at all in this presentation. So yes.
Thank you very much. It was very inspiring, I could say, and helpful. So thank you for your time and
Of course.
all the information you shared.
Of course. And okay, so should we close it down, or what's the plan?
I don't know if there are any more questions. Maybe we've got some time if anybody has some more questions, but if not, I think this is the closing act now.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. Once again, merci na всички, че me slušali. I ako iskate da si govorimo i po bulgarski na email, samo pišete. Thank you, everybody. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we'll meet again in the future.
Yes. Okay. All the best, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.